Hello all, this is my Module 5 discussion on balance training. The fundamental question for this week's discussion is, will balance training have an impact on injury prevention? And the short answer to that question is yes, but there are some specifics to keep in mind regarding what kinds of injuries can and cannot be prevented through balance training and the populations in which it is most effective. The physiological mechanisms which underlie postural control and therefore balance training include the following four systems: the musculoskeletal system, so the muscles and bones, the visual system, the somatosensory system, so that is mechanoreceptors, and the somatosensory cortex in the brain, as well as the vestibular or inner ear system. All of these systems contribute to postural control and they adapt to balance training. So for example, if we inhibit the contribution of one system, so for example, by training on unstable surfaces, we can inhibit the proprioceptive reflex. We will therefore overload other systems as they work harder to maintain postural control. As they work harder, they are forced to adapt. This is the same fundamental concept as overloading the musculoskeletal system through resistance training and forcing strength adaptations. So what does the research say about what kind of injuries can balance training prevent? Evidence supports balance training for the prevention of injury primarily at the knee and the ankle. For example, in a systematic review, it's been shown that balance training reduced ACL injuries in male soccer players. In randomized clinical control trials, it has also been shown that balance training can reduce ankle sprain incident in high school soccer and basketball players. It's important to keep in mind that the research seems to show that balance training is most effective in preventing injury in those with a history of ankle or knee injury. So it's best at preventing re-injury. However, balance training is likely helpful in preventing injury for those with no prior injury history to the knee or ankle. However, the evidence for this is less robust than it is for those with prior injuries. There is also some research into the difference between bracing, for example, wearing an ankle brace or wrapping the ankle, compared with balance training. And it's actually been shown that while ankle bracing can reduce the risk of ankle injury, it may actually increase the risk of injuries at other lower body joints. So the change in biomechanics at the ankle may increase stress at the knee and therefore increase the likelihood of knee injuries. My takeaway from this is that balance training is a superior intervention compared to bracing for overall injury prevention. However, decisions on whether or not to brace should be made on a case-by-case basis. So, for example, an athlete with high ankle sprain injury risk but low knee injury risk would probably benefit from bracing. However, this does not preclude the implementation of balance training in all athletes. Some questions that remain for me after reviewing the research. One is, can balance training reduce injury risk in contact sports or contact injuries? So it seems that non-contact injuries such as ACL tears or ankle sprains can be reduced through balance training. However, for example, could an ice hockey player with better balance be better able to absorb a body check and therefore prevent a violent impact with the boards? Or is strength a better quality to focus on in a population like this? In addition, some of the research is somewhat mixed. There's some interesting findings actually that balance training was associated with an increased risk of major knee injuries in female soccer players and overuse knee injuries in female and male volleyball athletes. My takeaway is that balance training itself was likely not the culprit, but that in the first case, the overemphasis on balance training may have been associated with a lack of resistance training, which is important, especially of the posterior chain for preventing ACL injuries, and it may have been associated with overtraining in the volleyball athletes. Practically, balance training should be part of a larger training program, which includes resistance training, plyometrics, agility, mobility, etc. This is likely more effective at preventing injury than balance training on its own. In my experience, balance exercises should be incorporated into a warm-up, as this improves efficiency, promotes high-quality training when the athlete is fresh, and it may actually potentiate better performance in things like in unilateral strength exercises later in the session. And I would also encourage everyone to keep in mind that resistance training and balance training are not mutually exclusive. For example, single leg squats and lunges can be a form of resistance training that also incorporates balance. Here are the references that were used for this video, and thank you very much for watching.